All right. Well, it's a pleasure to be here with Jams and Joysticks. My name is Darryl Hughes. I've been in the gaming business for about 35 plus years. I work with Konami. My wife and I we have a game company called Hughes Who Technologies. And we also have a not-for-profit called Hughes Who Technology Studios, where we work with low income and at-risk students to teach about gaming and animation. And I'm also a professor at Kennedy King College here in Chicago. It's a game development program that I designed and developed for them. We're going into our second year. So we teach game design, we teach game animation, we teach game programming, gamification, business of game. So we try to give the students like a 360 so that they can get a little taste of each of the disciplines so that they can see where they want to go with their career. And I also have two sons in the industry. So my oldest son, Devin, works for Blizzard Activision. He's a recruiter for them for DEI. And then my youngest son, he works for Blueberry, a game company in Reno. He's an art manager there.
I mean, you obviously have experience and kind of do a lot of stuff. Like, how did you even get started with that gaming and being a part of in the sector how did that even become a?
Well, it's an interesting story. Back in eighth grade, I wanted to do feature film animation. I was an animator. So I was in eighth grade and we were in science class and we watched the Rite of Spring from Fantasia movie where they had the dinosaurs and stuff. So I was vacillating between being a veterinarian or being an artist. And when I saw that scene, I said, man, I want to make things come to life. So I got into animation. I went to Columbia College here in Chicago. And while I was a student there, I was working on Tony the Tiger commercials and I was working on Captain Crunch commercials. So I had a good portfolio. And then when I left school, I was doing storyboards and stuff for advertising. And then one day somebody reached out to me and said that, hey, there's a game company looking for animators. So I got into animation. And so I went to this game company and I had never, I was a traditional artist. So this is when they first started coming out with the apples and all those this is like early 90s. So what ended up happening is that I went to this game company. They wanted some animation. So I was good at animation, but I was not good at using digital equipment. So I went to the college and asked to do a animation. Had to be only 38 pixels high. We only had 8-bit colors. So I went back there and I said, how do you work this Commodore 64? And then I said, oh, that's it. So I animated. So I did Elmer Fudd walking. Then I had Tasmanian Devil come running in with his tongue. So I went back the next day because I had to have this the next day back to this game company. They loved it. They said, how long you been doing animation for games? I said, this is the first thing I ever did. And I got hired. And from there, I got hired I went to Konami. Then I went into WMS Gaming and stuff. Then after that, me and my wife started our own business. That's my little quick history of how I got into this industry.
I guess since you did start kind of from this early on and then kind of this transition to technology world that we're kind of in, like, what was that kind of trend? Was that more of a positive than a negative? Was it like how did you kind of approach it? Because I've talked to a bunch of, it kind of ranges on the spectrum of like, you got some people that think, oh, it's going to take everybody's job or, it's such a helpful tool that can help you do things a lot faster and stuff like that. Like kind of where are you?
Well, for me, when I got started out, there weren't any Unreal engines. There weren't no Unity engines. We had to build our game engines from scratch. So we slowly came in there. That's when they had 3D Studio Max and stuff like that. So we learned how to just use a 3D program. So it was new technology, but it was like being in school learning. So we learned on the job. There weren't no schools teaching gaming like there is now. Go to school and get your gaming degree and all that kind of stuff. We were just guys who were pioneers. We were just trudging through it. It's all this new medium, because gaming was kind of young at that point. So it was all new. And so for me, it was just a natural learning process. So it wasn't like, this is going to be tough. This is going to be hard or anything like this. It was just, hey, it was part of everyday life and going to work. Learning this new software.
Yeah. And you also talked about kind of the study aspect, the college aspect, I know for a fact, like the whole college is getting on board with the whole gaming platforms and the game labs and stuff in these colleges. Kind of like, where did you see kind of that transition? Because I didn't, even when I was in school, I graduated in 2009. So, I mean, I was kind of in the middle of sort of that, and there wasn't really avenues as far as getting in.
Yeah, I think you're saying graduate around the same time my youngest son did from high school. So yeah, that's when it started changing, where people started realizing that gaming is becoming a big moneymaker. And then the schools realized, hey, we can make more money by offering classes for students. in
Yeah,
gaming.
because
But
I tell
still,
people all the time, like the gaming is more money than the music than the business. Like, I mean, gaming is big business, and I mean, everybody's trying to figure out that next way to kind of make that next dollar. So, and gaming is sort of the kind of step where now we're starting to hit ER stuff, and we're starting to hit all of this. I guess you could talk better about like kind of how the end things evolved over this sort of last decade, technological boom. I think is quite fast.
yeah, well, like you had mentioned, yeah, gaming makes more money than the movie, the film industry, also all American sports. They all combined will make 60 billion. We'll make over 300 billion this year. And the other thing is that we are more than just entertainment anymore. And that's the great thing about gaming right now, and that we're trying to convince a lot of parents that, it's okay if your kids play games, within reason, but there are more opportunities. And, medical field use gaming, VR, augmented reality, do surgeries before they do it. We did some research and we found that games help people retain information. So businesses are using it and schools are using it as a training tool as well to help educate people. And then about 4 or 5 years ago, the FDA approved a game to help kids with learning disabilities. So now the medical field is starting to recognize. And I don't know if you knew it, but the last Summer Olympics, esports was Olympic sport.
Yeah.
So we have migrated from just being this evil tool that makes kids to these bad kids, which is not true. And to very positive things that games are doing for people as well as health and everything.
But yeah, getting back to it kind of about the new age, the new way of gaming, fear of, hey, you're just doing a whole bunch of gaming and
burning your brain out and stuff.
Yeah, you're just wasting your time. Now it's actually being used as a tool to learn and a tool to actually get in somewhere into business or something like that. It's more of not just looking at it. How do parents, you think, or the parents you've talked to have kind of responded to the new way of talking about it? Because I'm sure it was probably teachers and stuff out there that was like, oh, they're probably playing games and not learning, doing things too. But now they have to kind of be, hey, this tool was actually helping people get jobs.
Yeah. So our motto for our non-for-profit is don't just play the game, get in the game. So we're trying to get people and parents to come on board. Unfortunately, with our African-American parents, we're having a hard trouble to get them to understand where this is going. When we offer free workshops and stuff, we can't even get students to come to it. And they just don't realize where everything is going technology, and that their kids, if they have no technical skills or in technology, in the next 5 years, they won't have any jobs. So we are really pushing it. And my son is my oldest son, Devin, who with Blizzard Activision, a lot of the students won't even fill out the applications. They're having that imposter syndrome kind of thing that, well, I'm not going to get the job. I'm not going to get hired. And he said, no, In fact, he sent me some job application things that they for internships. And at the bottom of it, Activision actually says we're looking for people who are, of other cultures to come and get into. So what they're saying is they're looking for young people who are, minorities, that they are looking for people to come in this business. And so one of his goals is to bring in more people of color, men and women, in this industry. So it's been an uphill battle trying to get our parents to really want to come and get involved with this and bring students to our program. So we're not giving up, but we're still pushing forward. And we're working with the school right now. We're doing an after school program with one of the schools on the south side of Chicago. And we actually having them do some stop motion animation. We also teaching them some gaming, also how to build games. So our big thing is not just teach kids programming. We teach them why you should design a game, how to design. So we teach them from the beginning of the process, coming up with a game idea, doing the storyboards, the whole process. So they know the whole process, because everybody don't want to be and we got other kids who got other talents, they creative artists and that kind of stuff. So we're STEAM instead of just STEM.
Right. I got you. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, like I was kind of telling you, kind of before we got on here, I'm kind of teaching myself some animation and dabble into the whole AI world and kind of creation process of kind of how all that, like, what's your opinion of the whole AI and the whole kind of new wave of like the way that people can kind of learn?
I think it's great, but at the same time, we got to be cautious. One of the things I have to be careful with my students when I'm teaching at Kenny King, they want to use AI to create their characters and stuff. And I want them to be creative. We want them to do critical thinking. We want them to think outside the box on their own and not rely on a computer by typing something in there. Even the big guys at Google and Microsoft having some concerns about it as well. And then Tyler Perry and build an $80 million add-on to his studio, and he saw the AI and he said, whoa, I got to hold off on this. This stuff is powerful. At the same time, it's a great tool, but at the same time, a lot of people lose jobs, and then a lot of stuff they're doing with AI. A lot of creative people might be impeded by this, and a lot of careers like that. But I think it's good if we use, like anything, if we use technology responsibly. I think it'd be a great tool for everyone.
Yeah, I was just going to say, what do you think that happy medium is? I guess it's probably so new, so people are still trying to figure out the whole ethical sort of ramification, not using it, how much is too much, the whole, you don't want to rely on it too much.
That's true. And the guys who created are trying to find that happy medium themselves and say, hey, where do we need to play? That's why they've been having these big conferences and stuff and talking about this stuff. Even met with the president. So it's scary because, they got AI can copy people's voices, and they've been using it to scam old people by sounding like their grandchildren, and they putting people's AI faces on other characters and stuff, saying that person was the one who committed a crime and stuff. So it's kind of great, but scary. I'm just sitting back and I'm learning it. And so I can be on the cutting edge like you. When it does go, they still need jobs. Somebody got to do it. Right?
My thing is it's kind of hard just because I said I am not the task for them or whatever, but I'm teaching myself Blender and teaching myself how this actual animation. I just want to move. I'm not even really sure.
You want to see it move, right?
I'm not even sure what I'm doing yet. I got other ideas and stuff that I want. I got to get the basics.
Right.
It's quite expansive. It's not like just one program learn and hey, there it is. You figured out everything there is about animation. You might have some other ideas don't even see coming down the road. So kind of talk a little bit more in depth about what it is that you're kind of talking to them about, how they're approaching expansive world that they're about to enter.
Well, number one, I'm trying to, and one of my biggest challenges is that it's not about my college students. That's not about the grades. It's putting together a portfolio. And that's what people are looking for in the game companies, that you really have to have a very solid portfolio. So for game design, I teach the kids the basics, the game mechanics. We talk about the narrative. So basic thing they had learned in English class about writing and writing a story. What's the narrative? What's the, how's the narrative being presented? Is it embedded, or is it emergent narrative where the player plays the game, they learn about the story? And it comes to animation. So I teach color theory. So they need to know about colors, how colors work together. And they say, well, how does that affect anything? Because the different cultures have colors represent different things. So if you're developing a game about a certain culture, you need to do your research, find out what do those colors mean in that culture. And then also just the basics, the 12 principles of animation, So if you're trying to do some animation, look up the Disney 12 principles of animation, squash and stretch, and those kind of things. So those are things that we try to get down to the main basics: art, game design, that type of stuff. How you build the game, how you come up with the ideas, how you brainstorm. So I teach them how do you come up with the ideas. And one of the hardest things people don't realize, what's the hardest thing you think is to come up with for a game?
What is it? I mean,
the game name. Thing that people have trouble.
Yeah, what is it?
The most simplest thing you think it was just the name of the game is one of the hardest things for people to come up with. But
you have a whole game planned out and okay, what is it? Yeah, what are we gonna call it? Yeah,
that's right. What we're gonna call it. But anyway, so those are the basics that we get into. And then, like I said, where we're taking gaming element, like a Fitbit, leaderboards, and, you got your icons and stuff. So we teach that, how that can transfer. That alone is like a $12 billion industry itself, doing gamification and a lot of marketing and trying to change behaviors. So we get into that.
What's kind of like is there, or I get a difference between because Captain Crunch and things like that, sort of how are they principles sort of the same? Are they different? Kind of how do they all blend together?
They are exactly the same. And I try to tell my students, they said, well, be doing some 3D animation. I said, well, the same principles that you need: overlapping action, anticipation, is all the same things that you have to do in 3D as you do in 2D animation. So it's all the same, so that's why I teach them the basics of these 12 principles doing 2D so they can learn those. And then when we transfer over to start building 3D characters, they still bring over those same principles over when they start animating their character. So looking at emotion, staging, how you stage a character, what's the best angle to show that scene that's going to give you the most oomph for that scene that relates to the audience, how well the scene is and what you're trying to say with that. All those same principles we had done in 2D is the same ones they use in 3D when you're doing it.
But talking about getting the Black parents to kind of where they are, and I kind of found it in how many Black people were actually in that I had no idea. We have a little bit more represent than we may think. We just don't know it. And not enough people out that know it enough. Had I known that it was this many Black people, I mean, I would have been like, well, hey, maybe I can do it.
Right.
I remember growing up, we didn't really have crazy opportunities right now, but we had like jobs, and I always wanted to stop and do all of this kind of the smaller. Now, like you said, your son works for Activision. Dude, Activision Blizzard that's about as big as you can get.
I mean, they're the biggest. So they just in the process of being bought out by Microsoft. So.
Microsoft, right. So I play Call of Duty, I'm all, so I'm that's definitely like one of those opportunities. I'm not sure you could have imagined 5. Even if it was achieved, probably was just thinking, how am I going to get to that?
Right.
What do I study? It wasn't really like roadmap.
Well, and I think the problem is that we need to get out and be more visible, because a lot of times I go into inner city schools and they say, you're Black and you're a game developer. Yes, we are. Some of us here, we are less than 3% of the jobs in this industry, but still we need to get out and let people, young people like us, see that we are out here and that we are in the business and connect with us. And that's one of the reasons why I had set up this whole program at Kennedy King, because it's located on the south side of Chicago. I taught at DePaul University, Columbia College. In fact, I was at Tribeca Flashpoint Academy here in Chicago, and I took a 4-student team to a national championship, to Microsoft Imagine Cup competition, and we made it to the semifinals in New York. But when I went to Microsoft, for that competition, for the U.S. competition, dude, out of over 2,000 students, I can say I saw less than 10 kids of color at this competition. So that was back in 2011, but we still not being represented, and we not still. But as people in this industry, people of color in this industry, we got to reach out to our young people, go to the schools, talk to them, and say, hey, this is what the opportunities are. You can't always rely on sports or anything like that to make it, but to always have a backup.
Yeah, these kids are playing games regardless.
That's right.
So if they're going to play, they might as well know about the opportunity. They can't afford them. I used to be a kid that used to draw all the time. Well, who knew I could have took that and made that into some sort of anime? You know what I'm saying? Like, unless you just kind of, I can draw. That's kind of cool.
Well, my youngest son, he's been drawing since he was about 3, when he could put a pencil in his hand, and he's in the game industry now as an artist. So, but he had parents who are in the industry. My wife, she was in advertising, and I was in the game industry. I was in the animation industry. So they had parents that was in this industry. So we were there to guide them a little bit more.
Right.
But now, so that's why we do this non-for-profit, is to get out there and show more kids that these are opportunities. And people need to understand there's more to it than just a few jobs as a game designer, level designer, or they're looking for voiceover people. They need people in marketing. They need people, somebody has to promote all this stuff. So there's 100 opportunity jobs in the gaming industry that people really don't know about. So we try to open their eyes to that kind of stuff and let them know that these opportunities are still available in the gaming industry too, as well.
To kind of talk a little bit more about thing you got going on in the south side of Chicago, just kind of talk about like the area and kind of how kids are receiving gaming, just kind of talk a little bit about the bubble.
Yeah, so we are on the south side of Chicago. Mostly we've been working in Inglewood, Chatham areas of Chicago. Inglewood is one of the lowest economic communities in the city of Chicago. I think they have like over 50% unemployment rate there in that part of the city. And the schools a lot of the problems is that these schools and these community centers don't have the technology. They don't have the resources. So when we go in there, we have to bring a lot of our equipment and stuff, and they don't have the computers and stuff. So, but our thing is that they are also dealing with, and this is a component that we're trying to work into it right now. We've been doing some research working with Northwestern University, bringing mental health part of our program, because a lot of these kids in low income areas are dealing with a lot of stuff, the violence. Some kids are last summer I had a group of kids I was working with. We're doing a 4-week game development workshop. I said, do a game about your life. And so one of the kids said, I want to do one about me being in the hospital. I said, dude, you're only 13 years old. What you doing here? He said, I've been shot. So I had 14 students. Half of them had already been shot by the age of 14. And so it went from a moment to a mentoring and a therapy session and talking with these kids. Those are the things our kids are dealing with, and they got a lot of stuff that's going on outside. Even with my college students at Kennedy King, we are on the south side Inglewood community. Several young ladies that got kicked out of their home, and they couldn't show up. They were very good students, but they're trying to find somewhere to live. Some have come in and they haven't eaten in 3 days. So these are the things that we have to try to help them with so that they want to come back. When you're going through all that kind of stuff, it's hard for you to sit in the classroom and think about studying.
Yeah.
When you're trying to live, so those are the things that we do, but we are making the difference. Last year, we worked with over 600 students last year. So we are still we look at more funding. If anybody who wants to donate some funding so we can buy more computers so we can go into the school so they can have the software and the technology so that they can learn on, like you say, Blender and After Effects and all that kind of stuff. And so that they be able to do it. Because right now, schools, and they got these Chromebooks, which can't run much of nothing. It's just the school software. But yeah, we are out there. And this has been a goal of me and my wife. We've been doing it for over 15 years. We've been doing it about 10 or 15 years. And then 2019, we decided to become a 501c3 so that we can try to go after more funding to help us with that kind of thing. But we love it. We love the kids. These very creative kids. My God, these kids got so much talent and creativity is just sitting there because they don't have the tools or the resources to let that go out there and be known, So right now we're working on a 3D stop motion animation that we're going to send to a Google Doodle so we can try to get a $10,000 scholarship for the school for the kids to go to college and stuff right now. So that's what I was doing before I came on with you, working on editing the 3D animations they run there. And so we're trying to put that together.
How can people reach out to you? Where people can find all of the working on?
Yeah, so they can reach us at Hughes Who Techstudio.org. www.HughesHuTechstudio.org. Hughes Who Techstudio.org is our non-for-profit, or they can reach me at hugheswho.hughes@gmail.com if they're interested in us doing a program. We do virtual too. So during the pandemic, we didn't even stop. So we stayed busy through the whole pandemic because we're doing virtual with the kids. So right now we've got a workshop coming up during spring break. We're going to be doing a week long teaching some, I think we're going to do 5th through middle schoolers. We're going to be doing 2D stop motion animation with the kids so they have somewhere to go during spring break. So they're not out in the streets so they can come. So we're going to be doing that in Chicago as well.
It's definitely important to get, a lot more of these kids out of these crazy environments and into, something that they can strive for, which, especially if they have a love for animation, and drawing and things like that.
Yeah, we just want to change who their mentors are. We just need to change that. So we want, like I said, we need to be more visible in our communities, let them know that, hey, we are here, we are in this industry, and there are people that look like them doing this. And we just got to get out there and show them that, hey, here we are, and see how we can do and get into these schools and participate, make a difference for these kids because they love it. They do like to play games, but our motto say, just don't play the game, get in the game. You can make some money instead of just planning. But I want to say, Dre, I appreciate you today. And I appreciate it. I've been seeing some of the videos you and Jams and Joysticks have been putting out there and listening to some. So this is great. This is a great platform. And then you say this might get more people to see what we are doing and what we need to do to get up our all about.
And that's what it's all about, right? We trying to help each other. We trying to world a better place than what we found it. All of that. So
that's right.
That's all this is about. We can all have a good time, make a process. I think that's all good.
I get up every day. I enjoy what I do, and I would not even change that. I know people who have went on and made a lot of money as lawyers, doctors, and all that kind of stuff, got out their game. But hey, you can still make it. My oldest son said, man, Dad, there's a lot of money in this tech business. These people don't realize how much money you can make in tech. So we just trying to get them out there. But the most important thing is when you get up every day, you enjoy what you do. And I love what I do every day. And I love teaching. I love working with the kids. So it's awesome. I look forward to anybody want to contact me. And if I can help out in any way, you have my information. I look forward to talking to them.